Hello and welcome to All Things Seniors. This is your host, Rafiq. So, in the previous episode, we spoke about planning for the road trip with our parents, or in your case, if you're planning a road trip or a travel with your loved ones or with seniors, with elders. I told you that we will do another episode for the key lessons and takeaways that we learned from that road trip so that I could share that with you and maybe that will help you plan a better journey or a travel with your loved ones. So in this episode, we'll talk about 5 top lessons that we learned on this trip, which has been transformative in my relationship with my father, and same thing with my wife's relationship with her mom. So I'll share those with you today, and hopefully that will help you as well. Let's begin. So the very first learning that we had was, as I told you in the previous episode, we did plan for frequent stops so that our parents could stretch their legs. It is not becoming physically strenuous for them, or they also get those bathroom breaks. And as much as we did our planning, there was always pretty much daily a time where, let's say, we'll stop at a gas station. We'll say, okay, this was a planned stop. This is a place where there are public bathrooms. Get yourself relax. And for example, my dad would say, I don't feel like going to the restroom right now. And on day one, we say, yeah, sure, no problem. And then you start driving again, and within half an hour, which was not anymore a planned stop, and my dad will say, can we stop at a gas station? I actually now feel like going to a restroom again. Now what do you do? Because you have not planned your route in a way that there was another gas station there, and now you have to look for it. So in the first couple of days, we learned that when we stop at a gas station, you actually have to almost encourage your parent to say, hey, even if you don't feel like going right now to the restroom, please go and see if you can relax yourself, or in a way that you can then plan. And then by day 2 or by day 3, it became a norm. I think first couple of days, they also did not realize that if they would feel like going to a restroom in the middle of a trip, it would not be possible because there are no gas stations, or there are no spots where we are stopping where there are public bathrooms. And they've now realized by day 2 or by day 3 that when we stop, it is better to pay that due respect to the public bathroom, because that will then help them continue with their day. So I think that was our lesson number 1, to encourage them or to have that conversation, which made our rest of the trip very meaningful. And see, it tells you that how important these bathroom breaks are when you are having a trip with your seniors, because in a usual trip, this would not be like stopping for bathrooms would not be your lesson number 1, but it was for a trip with seniors where you have to plan for their comfort so that they feel that they are being taken care of. So that was our trip lesson number 1. Let's see what lesson number 2 is. So our lesson number 2 is that we have to even further put an effort towards packing light. Like, we knew that we will be the people who will be every Airbnb or hotel where we check in and check out every day, because it was like one city, one day kind of thing, right? We have to check in and check out so many places, except for a couple of large cities like Toronto and Halifax, where we stayed for like multiple days. But every other city, like smaller places like Quebec City or even Montreal, we just stayed one day. We were keep moving on. And every morning when you are checking out, we were the one, like me and my wife, we had to, in a way, carry the luggage of 5 people, my parents for me and my wife for her mom. And for us to be carrying the luggage out in the morning and then, taking it back in the evening, as much as we already packed light, I think in future we will even pack lighter. Because for us to be able to do that so many times, check in and check out, it was becoming a bit physically strenuous for us. I was feeling my back was aching by day 5 or 6. And imagine that if that becomes a problem on a road trip, it would be not as pleasant and enjoyable then for the caregiver. So I would pack even lighter, as light as possible. Then plan in a way that if you carry less number of clothes, then you have an Airbnb where there is a laundry, so that every 4 or 5 days you can do your laundry, and everybody then have to in a way, have all the clothes required, but still don't have to pack very heavy with the comfort of laundry coming every few days. So I think that was our lesson number 2. Pack even lighter. My lesson number 3 was that unlike what I would have anticipated, that my parents would be very interested in these new sceneries and sites and destinations. You know what I learned? Actually, for them, it was more about experiences than destinations. And I'll give you an example. When we came back and I asked my father, what was the best moment of the trip for you? And he did not say going to Peggy's Cove or going to Cabot Trail or going to Niagara Falls. What he said was that to be able to climb that little bit of, hilly, mountainy terrain at Peggy's Cove, that experience of being able to do that was his top highlight. When I asked him what was the second most memorable moment for him, it was again another experience of being able to do something. And multiple times our parents mentioned that. And to me now, in hindsight, I was planning my trip around those destinations, or around how do we go there so that my parents can say, yes, we have seen that place, or I have been there. But for them, it was more about to be able to do certain things rather than being there. And I think that was a profound learning. And I think next time when we are planning, I would incorporate more experiences than destinations per se. Another thing, for example, we were between two cities, and there was these waterfalls where you had to walk a little bit and then take a gondola ride to the mountain, but there was a lot of walk. And when we went there, my father was not comfortable whether he'll be able to do all of that, with some stairs and this and then a walk and then kind of a long walk. But then when we came back from that waterfall, that is one of his memorable things. He said, see how much we walked that day. And we were able to go to that top of the bridge where we were able to see waterfall just underneath us. And that, it was not about the biggest waterfall of the trip. It was one of the smaller waterfalls per se, but the experience of being able to go to a spot where otherwise he would not have felt he is able to do. And that ability that he can still, that empowering feeling that he can still travel, I think was a learning for me, that we'll plan our trips in future accordingly so that they feel more of that. If you're liking this content, like the episode, subscribe to the channel. That way YouTube will show it to more caregivers, and hopefully we'll be able to help more caregivers around the world. All right, my next point is about keeping your plan a bit flexible, because what happens that many a times when my parents, for example, they have this 60, 70 years of life behind them, and there were moments where, whether it was because of the music that was playing in the car or because of the scenery or because of the food that we were having, something would trigger in their mind which will bring them a flashback memory, whether it was from one of their work days at the office, or it was one of their past travels, or a family history memory, or a story. And they'll say, you know what? And then they will share a story. And that will become a conversation, and we'll open our phones and look at some old pictures. And that, for example, that meal in a small restaurant all of a sudden became, which was planned to be a half an hour meal, became a 90 minutes experience. Along with that meal, it became a conversation, a storytelling, seeing some old pictures, the flashback. All of that was one of the jewels of the day. It was not about what we did, for example, in Halifax. It was about when we were in Halifax, we went to that small restaurant where while we were having meals, my father shared a story, and that became a longer than planned meal, but that became one of the best meals we had, because now all of a sudden it is an emotional moment. It's more of an experiential thing where they felt that it's not just rush. As soon as they felt something, they wanted to share it with the family, and they were able to. And I think one of the lessons for me is that going forward in future, when I plan these trips, I will have like an hour or so of flexibility between each travel time or destinations, so that if my parents feel like, if we feel like having all of a sudden a FaceTime call with the family somewhere because they wanted to share this moment with someone, whether a friend or a family or their grandkids, they should be able to. And that was a big learning, and hopefully this helps you in planning your future trips as well. And my last lesson is about data. On the phone, you have ability to watch YouTube or listen to music. And when my parents are at home, they have access to Wi-Fi. But when we are between cities, they were relying on the cellular data to be able to continue to watch something. For example, my father likes to watch these news pieces or some commentary on YouTube, or my mom would like to watch some whether it's a drama or an episode of this of a series which she's watching on Netflix, on YouTube. And we wanted them to have that flexibility to be able to watch. Otherwise, imagine what would they do on a 2 hour journey from point A to point B. And as much as you could plan to download few things, but we wanted them to have this flexibility. In hindsight, I would have planned that better, because in the end, after 19 days, that was a lot of data. And we had to then, towards the end, curb the use of data because of the limitations on our data plan and all those things. So I think for future, one of the lessons I learned, and I think it's best for others to keep that in mind, is when you are leaving the hotel in the morning, help them download few things. Now again, that's a chore for you, because one of the things we had to do, every Airbnb we would go to, or a hotel we would go to, we had to now get them on a Wi-Fi. My parents are not as tech savvy to go to YouTube and download things and then access that downloaded things and then turn off this. All those things is maybe too much for them. So maybe we have to come up with a better way of allowing them to use their data going forward, so that it's not too burdensome on the family plan or on the budget. So that is something which was a big learning. Right, what are some of the learnings that you have from your previous travels? Write in the comments so that we can learn from you. And I hope that you learned something new today. In the end, I always say that a rested caregiver is a better caregiver. So take care of yourself so that you can better take care of your loved ones. And it was great to have you here. And I would love to have you at the next episode next week. Until then, ciao.